No one noticed the shy waitress. But her quiet actions soon revealed a hidden power that shocked everyone completely. The moment Emma walked into the bustling cafe, it was as if she blended into the background. The morning rush was in full swing. Baristas were shouting orders, coffee machines hissed and steamed, plates clattered, and customers chatted loudly at every table. In the middle of this chaos, Emma moved with a quiet, almost invisible presence. She balanced trays carefully, her hands steady, even as she wove through the tightly packed tables, careful not to bump into anyone. Her gentle smile rarely left her face, but it was the kind of smile people didn't always notice at first. Soft, unassuming, almost like a secret. She didn't speak much. When she did, her voice barely rose above the din of cups clanging and coffee machines steaming. A simple, "Here's your order," or "Would you like anything else?" came out in a quiet tone that could easily be mistaken for timidness. Customers often didn't even hear her, responding as if the words were part of the cafe's background noise. Yet, there was something strangely comforting about the way she moved and spoke, like her presence alone could calm the frantic pace around her. Even if no one realized it consciously. Most of the regulars assumed she was just another shy girl who preferred to stay unnoticed. She wasn't loud, she didn't joke with the customers, and she didn't seek attention. To them, Emma was just another face behind the counter, another server moving between tables, quietly doing her job. Her quietness, they thought, meant she had nothing interesting to offer. They didn't know her story, her thoughts, or the depth of her empathy that flowed silently beneath her calm exterior. The staff treated her much the same, while other waitresses chatted freely with each other or played small jokes to pass the time. Emma often worked in her own bubble. The team barely talked to her beyond what was necessary: serve table 3, or refill the sugar containers. Even the managers overlooked her when assigning responsibilities, giving the more outspoken staff the better tables, the complex orders, or the busy shifts. In the world of the cafe, where visibility often meant recognition, Emma's quiet nature made her almost invisible. And yet, Emma was far from ordinary. Her calm demeanor masked a mind that noticed everything. She observed patterns in the cafe. When a customer's hands trembled as they held their coffee, when someone sat quietly for too long, or when the regulars looked more tired than usual. She remembered names, favorite drinks, and small personal details that even her coworkers didn't catch. To her, these weren't just observations, they were tiny clues about the lives around her, glimpses into the hearts of the people she served. Though she appeared timid, there was a strength in Emma that no one expected. It wasn't the kind of strength that demanded attention or made a spectacle. It was quiet, steady, and deeply human. The ability to notice others, to understand unspoken feelings, and to act with gentle care, this was a strength that could change moments, even lives. But no one in the cafe suspected it yet. They didn't see the way Emma silently carried herself, how she could diffuse tension with a glance or a word whispered just at the right time. They didn't know that beneath her ordinary exterior, Emma was preparing to do something remarkable. Something that would make everyone stop and finally see her for who she really was. As she moved between the tables, unnoticed yet ever present, the hum of the cafe continued around her. Orders were shouted, coffee brewed, and people chatted, all oblivious to the quiet force moving among them. Emma's ordinary appearance hit a heart capable of extraordinary impact. And soon, the day would come when the shy waitress with the gentle smile would step out of the shadows of quiet observation and open everyone's eyes to a world they hadn't realized they were missing. Because sometimes the most unassuming people carry the most powerful surprises. It all began on a slow Tuesday afternoon. The cafe had quieted down from the morning rush. A few scattered customers sipped their drinks, and the soft hum of conversation replaced the usual chaos. Emma was wiping down tables, her movements careful and deliberate, when she noticed a small, elderly man sitting alone at a corner table. His posture was slightly hunched, and his eyes stared blankly at the surface of his coffee. There was something fragile in the way he held himself. as if the weight of the world rested quietly on his shoulders. Most people would have glanced briefly and moved on, assuming he wanted solitude. But Emma paused. Something about him pulled her in, not curiosity, but an instinctive understanding that he needed someone to notice him, even if he didn't speak. She adjusted the tray in her hands, took a deep breath, and walked over. "Would you like me to bring you something?" she asked softly, her voice just enough to reach him without disturbing the quiet. The man looked up, startled. His eyes widened slightly, then softened into a faint smile. I wasn't expecting anyone," he said quietly. Emma nodded and set down a small cup of tea she had fetched, sitting just a little closer than usual so he didn't feel alone. She didn't push conversation, didn't demand attention. She simply stayed, offering her presence. Over the next few minutes, the man began to talk. Slowly at first, then with more ease. He told stories of his youth, of places he had traveled, of friends he had lost and love he had cherished. Emma listened, leaning slightly forward, her eyes reflecting genuine interest. She didn't interrupt, judge, or advise. She just listened, and in doing so, she created something extraordinary, a space where the man felt truly seen and understood. It wasn't long before other customers began to notice something unusual. There was a strange warmth spreading from the corner table, a gentle ripple of calm that contrasted sharply with the cafe's usual chatter. Emma's quiet attentiveness was affecting everyone in the room, though no one could explain why. People unconsciously slowed down, took a deeper breath, and looked around as if seeing the cafe for the first time. Emma didn't know it yet. But this was the beginning of her subtle transformation from an overlooked waitress to a presence that could change lives. The elderly man wasn't the only one who felt it. Regulars who had never spoken to her began to watch her with curiosity. The baristas noticed how she moved through the tables with grace and awareness, gently diffusing tension, offering a kind word, or sharing a smile that seemed to heal in silence. For Emma, it was natural. She didn't think of herself as remarkable. She didn't have to perform or prove anything. She simply paid attention. And that attention mattered. People had been so absorbed in their own worlds that they forgot what it meant to be noticed, to be heard, to be valued. And now, slowly, they were remembering because Emma had quietly reminded them. By the end of the day, the elderly man left with a sense of lightness he hadn't felt in years. He shook her hand with genuine gratitude, his eyes misty. Emma watched him leave, returning to her duties as if nothing extraordinary had happened. But the cafe had changed, even if no one fully understood it. Something subtle but profound had shifted the realization that even the quietest person could hold immense power. That empathy and presence were forces stronger than any loud voice or grand gesture. And in that quiet corner, among the hum of cups and low chatter, Emma's secret began to unfold. She was no longer just the shy waitress. She was a force that could open hearts, lift spirits, and make people see the beauty in the everyday moments that often go unnoticed. Little did anyone know, this small act of noticing a lonely man was only the beginning. Emma was about to show the world that sometimes the most ordinary people carry extraordinary light. Light capable of opening everyone's eyes in ways they could never have imagined. The cafe had always been a place of ordinary routines, orders taken, coffees poured, tables cleaned, and casual conversations flowing. But one evening, a ripple of anticipation stirred in the air. It was the cafe's weekly open mic night, an event usually dominated by bold, outgoing performers eager to show off their skills. Emma had watched from the sidelines countless times, quietly observing the performances, her presence barely acknowledged by anyone. She had never considered performing herself. The idea of stepping into the spotlight terrified her. Yet, on that particular evening, something changed. Maybe it was the way the room felt slower, more intimate, or maybe it was the encouragement of a few regulars who noticed her gentle presence. When the owner asked if anyone would like to perform, Emma felt a quiet nudge inside her, a tiny, persistent voice telling her that she had something worth sharing. She hesitated, almost retreating, but then, With trembling hands and a racing heart, she whispered, I can try." The cafe fell into a curious silence. Most people assumed she would back out, that the shy, soft-spoken waitress would disappear into the background as always. But Emma stepped forward anyway. She carried nothing but a simple stool and her courage. As she positioned herself near the small microphone, a wave of nervous energy rippled through her. Her hands shook slightly, and her breath caught in her chest. Yet beneath the surface, a deeper calm settled, a calm born of knowing that what she had to offer was not about impressing anyone, but about connecting with them. ****. Then she began to sing. ***. The first note floated into the room like a delicate whisper, so pure and clear that it forced the chatter to fade. Emma's voice was soft, yet it carried an unexpected depth, rich with emotion that seemed to reach directly into the hearts of those listening. It was not just a melody, it was a story. Each note carefully woven with the weight of experiences and feelings that no one had suspected she possessed. The cafe, usually filled with laughter, conversation, and clinking cups, became completely silent. Every eye turned toward her, every ear straining to catch the subtle magic that had somehow emerged from the quietest corner of the room. Her voice was honest, raw, and mesmerizing. It didn't demand attention, it earned it. People who had barely noticed her before were now captivated, leaning forward as if discovering something they had always missed. The shy waitress, the girl who moved invisibly among crowded tables, had become the center of the room, not because she shouted or drew attention, but because she touched something essential within everyone present. By the time her song ended, the cafe erupted into applause, cheers, and even tears. People stood, clapping, and shouting in disbelief. The owner's jaw dropped. The baristas looked at each other in astonishment. Emma's co-workers, who had often overlooked her quiet presence, now gazed at her with a mixture of awe and newfound respect. She had done what no one expected. She had transformed the ordinary space of the cafe into something extraordinary, simply through the power of her talent and her willingness to step forward. But yet, Emma herself remained humble. She didn't bask in the applause or demand recognition. She returned to her spot behind the counter as if nothing had happened, carrying herself with the same gentle grace she had always possessed. But inside, she felt something awakening, a sense of purpose and possibility that had been quietly growing for years. That night marked a turning point. Emma was no longer just the shy waitress with the gentle smile. She had revealed a hidden depth, a talent that could move people and open their hearts in ways they never expected. And while no one could predict the full impact she would have, it was clear that Emma's quiet strength had begun to shine, illuminating the lives of those around her in subtle but profound ways. Little did the cafe and the world know, this performance was only the beginning. Emma's gift was not just in singing. It was in her ability to notice, to connect, and to awaken something within people that they hadn't realized they were missing. And soon, she would prove that sometimes, the quietest person in the room is capable of the most extraordinary things. After that unforgettable night, the cafe never felt the same again. Emma's performance had left a mark not just on the customers, but on the staff and the atmosphere itself. People who had barely noticed her before began to see her in a new light. She was no longer the quiet, invisible waitress moving silently among tables. She had become someone who could touch hearts without even trying. The change started subtly. A regular customer, who always seemed lost in his phone and distracted by life, now looked forward to Emma's gentle smile when he arrived. A young couple who came in arguing almost daily found themselves pausing to listen when Emma spoke a few kind words. Even the other waitresses, who had often ignored her shy presence, began observing the way she handled the tables with a mix of empathy, attention, and quiet authority that seemed effortless. Emma didn't change who she was. She remained humble and soft-spoken, never asking for attention or praise. But her actions spoke volumes. She started small, offering a kind word to a stressed student juggling coffee and textbooks. or noticing when a customer's order was delayed and stepping in with reassurance. She even began telling short stories during slow hours, weaving moments of humor, reflection, and warmth into the cafe experience. Customers who had come in only for coffee began to linger, drawn by the subtle, calming presence of someone who genuinely cared. The true power of Emma's impact was in her ability to see the unseen. She noticed the elderly man who came in alone every morning, the young woman who always seemed nervous ordering her drink, the regular who had recently lost someone dear, and instead of offering empty gestures, Emma gave them what they needed most: attention, empathy, and understanding. Her quiet strength became a gentle force that slowly transformed the cafe into a place where people felt safe, valued, and connected. Even the staff began to see her differently. Managers noticed how efficiently she managed her tables without causing any friction, how she could diffuse tense situations with just a few calm words, and how she remembered details about every customer that no one else seemed to. Emma had become the heart of the cafe, the quiet center that kept everything balanced, the invisible thread weaving everyone together. Her influence extended beyond the cafe walls. Customers began sharing stories of how Emma's small acts of kindness had touched their lives. One man returned every week just to talk to her because he felt heard for the first time in months. A mother visiting the cafe with her children appreciated how Emma made them feel special, turning an ordinary coffee outing into a cherished memory. People began to realize that something as simple as a smile, a listening ear, or a quiet word could create profound change, and Emma was the living proof. Through all of this, Emma taught a powerful lesson without ever saying a word. She showed that visibility isn't about being loud or commanding attention. It's about noticing, caring, and acting with heart. Her quiet presence reminded everyone that strength can be gentle, influence can be soft, and the smallest gestures often leave the biggest impact. By the end of the week, the cafe had a new reputation. People came not just for the coffee, but for the experience Emma created. It had become a place where everyone felt welcome, where hearts could be lifted, and where the ordinary act of kindness was celebrated. And yet, Emma never changed who she was. She remained the same shy, gentle waitress with a soft smile. Only now, everyone around her could see the extraordinary light she carried, the invisible power that had quietly opened their eyes to a world they hadn't noticed before. Little by little, the shy girl who had once gone unnoticed was now a quiet force, reshaping lives and teaching everyone the simple but profound truth: sometimes, the most unassuming person in the room is the one who changes everything. Months passed, and the little cafe became more than just a place to grab coffee or a quick bite. It had transformed into a space filled with warmth, connection, and stories, all quietly nurtured by Emma, the once overlooked, shy waitress with a gentle smile. People who had once seen her as invisible now regarded her with admiration, gratitude, and awe. Her presence had become magnetic, though she never sought the spotlight or recognition. Emma continued her work as she always had, moving gracefully between tables, taking orders, refilling cups, and ensuring that everyone felt cared for. But now, there was a difference in the way people responded to her. Customers lingered longer, not because the cafe's coffee had changed, but because of Emma's presence, the calm assurance in her movements, the gentle attention in her voice, and the unspoken kindness in her eyes. She had become the heartbeat of the cafe, quietly reminding everyone that even small gestures could have enormous meaning. Her impact reached far beyond the walls of the cafe. A businessman, stressed and hurried, began to pause and smile when Emma handed him his coffee. Teenagers, shy and unsure of themselves, found courage to speak or laugh because Emma had first acknowledged their presence. Elderly patrons, who had felt invisible in the hustle of life, left the cafe with renewed energy and light in their eyes. Emma didn't have to perform or demand attention. She simply existed, fully present, and that was enough to change lives. Even the staff had been transformed by her example. They had witnessed how her quiet attentiveness could soothe tension, lift moods, and create a more harmonious work environment. Managers began to notice her insight. Emma remembered preferences, anticipated problems, and connected with people in ways that no one else could. They realized that leadership didn't always roar, it could whisper, observe, and act with empathy, just as Emma had quietly been doing all along. Yet, despite all this, Emma remained humble. She never sought fame, never boasted about her impact, and never allowed the attention she received to change her gentle demeanor. To her, helping others and noticing the little things was not heroic, it was simply how she lived her life, and that authenticity was precisely what made her so extraordinary. People weren't drawn to her because she performed for them, they were drawn to her because she genuinely cared. Without expectation or pretense, stories of Emma's quiet influence began to spread. Customers shared experiences of how she had brightened a lonely day, offered comfort without words, or noticed something that others had overlooked. They began to realize that life's most profound moments often came from unexpected places, like the shy waitress who, through her empathy, presence, and talent, had opened their eyes to the beauty of small gestures, the power of human connection, and the magic hidden in everyday life. And so, Emma's journey became an inspiring reminder to all. True strength is not always loud. Recognition is not always immediate, and influence does not always announce itself. Sometimes, it whispers. Sometimes, it moves quietly among crowded tables, unnoticed until its impact is impossible to ignore. The shy girl who had once gone unnoticed had, in time, touched countless lives. She had reminded everyone that even the quietest, most ordinary-looking person could have an extraordinary effect on the world around them. Emma had opened eyes, lifted hearts, and changed perspectives without demanding a single spotlight. As she wiped down the counter one evening, watching customers laugh, share stories, and leave with smiles, Emma remained the same gentle, shy girl she had always been. And yet, the cafe and everyone who had entered it was forever changed. Sometimes, the world doesn't need the loudest voices. Sometimes, it needs someone like Emma, a quiet observer, a gentle heart, and a shy waitress who had shown everyone that true power lies not in being seen, but in seeing others. And that's how Emma, the shy waitress who no one noticed, ended up opening everyone's eyes. She taught us that true strength doesn't always shout, it often whispers. Small gestures, quiet attention, and genuine care can change lives in ways we never imagine. So next time you see someone sitting quietly, or someone who seems invisible, remember, that person might just change your day, touch your heart, or shift your perspective in ways you never expected. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring tales, because sometimes, the quietest people carry the most extraordinary power. And every story has the power to open your eyes.